Is America plugging the hole or arguing while we sink? Remember, we fight for what's right because it's time to go right.
Welcome to Go Right with Peter Boykin, the Constitutionalist for liberty. Picture a boat taking water fast. One sees the leak, the rest debate the past. Arguing tone while the waves roll in, calling truth a modern sin. We shame the warning, defend the whole, outsourced duty, lose control. Are we plugging the hole or arguing while we sink? Standing at the edge, afraid to think. Truth over comfort, action over pride. Choose your direction or drown with the tide. Fix the problem. Lead right. GoRightNews.com.
Is America plugging the hole or arguing while we sink? This is Peter Boykin, and this is hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin. Picture a boat taking on water. One person points at the hole. The rest argue about tone, motives, credentials, feelings, and whether pointing out that the hole is somehow offensive. Some say the leak proves the boat is strong. Others insist the water feels refreshing. A few demand silence because criticism makes the ship look bad. Meanwhile, the water keeps rising. That is America right now. We are a nation arguing over words while reality floods the floor. We shame the person who notices the problem instead of fixing it. We protect systems that are failing us and attack citizens who dare to say so. We confuse unity with obedience and compassion with denial. We call accountability negativity. And we call it concern extremism. But we call the truth inconvenient. And this is how republics rot. Not with one dramatic collapse, but with 1,000 excuses. We outsource responsibility to institutions that no longer answer to the people. We replace debate with labels. We replace solutions with slogans. We sit down, stay quiet, and tell ourselves it is someone else's job to bail the water. Now, going right is not about a party. It's not about party or tribes. It is about direction. It means choosing responsibility over comfort, truth over applause, and action over performance outrage. It means fixing the hole before lecturing the person who noticed it. Because boats do not sink from criticism. They sink from leaks, ignored leaks. And history is merciless to those who argued while the water rose. This has been Peter Boykin, and this is hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin. You can check us out on GoRightNews.com, PeterBoykin.com, and GoRightNC.com.
Welcome aboard! Go right with Peter Boykin! the Constitutionalist for liberty. GoRightNews.com. Picture a ship on a restless sea, water rising past the knee. One points out the crack below, others say just let it go. Talking loud about the tone while the leak keeps growing strong. Debate the words, debate the blame, but no one moves to change the game. Call it comfort, call it pride, but the tide won't wait outside. Heave-ho, are we fixing the hole, or arguing loud while losing control? Raise the sails, take your role. Truth is the compass that guides the soul. Heave-ho, hear the call. Stand up now before we fall. Unity turned into obey, responsibility thrown away. Labels louder than the storm, breaking what was once the norm. Systems failing, still we cheer, silencing the voice of fear. A republic fades slow and deep when watchers argue instead of keep. History sings from waves gone by. Ships don't sing from asking why. Heave-ho, are we fixing the hole, or arguing loud while losing control? Raise the sails, take your role. Truth is the compass that guides the soul. Heave-ho, hear the call. Stand up now before we fall. Boats do not sink from criticism, they sink from leaks ignored. Direction is not about tribe, it is about survive. Grab the rope and take the wheel. Face the storm, make it real. No more waiting, no delay. The rising tide won't fade away. Heave-ho, now take control. Patch the breach and save the hole. Truth over comfort, strong and bold. A steady hand against the cold. Heave-ho, stand tall. Answer now before we fall. It's time for you to choose a direction. So let's go right.
Welcome back to Go Right with Peter Boykin, the Constitutionalist for liberty. Picture that boat again. Water rushing in. One citizen is pointing to the breach. The rest are arguing about tone, intent, credentials, and feelings. Someone says calling out the leak makes the ship look weak. Someone else insists the water is refreshing. A committee forms to study whether leak is the appropriate term. Meanwhile, the floorboards are underwater. That is not just a metaphor for cable news drama. That is a working model of how decline happens in a constitutional republic. At the federal level, we see it every day. We argue about phrasing while the national debt surges past numbers that would have shocked prior generations. We debate optics while border security becomes a talking point instead of a policy. We fight over labels while federal agencies expand their authority through regulation rather than legislation. Congress performs outrage. Bureaucracies quietly grow. The people argue. The water rises. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Bureaucratic expansion rarely feels dramatic.
It feels procedural. It feels administrative. It feels like, for your safety, the founders designed the separation of powers precisely because concentrated authority becomes self-protecting. When institutions stop answering clearly to the people, accountability is reframed as extremism. Concern is labeled as dangerous. Oversight is painted as sabotage. That is a leak. Now bring it down to the state level. North Carolina is a perfect example of how this dynamic plays out closer to home. State government battles over education standards while parents struggle to understand what their children are actually being taught. Energy policy debates stall while families see rising costs. Development explodes in certain counties without infrastructure keeping pace. Roads clogged, services strained. Citizens ask questions. They are told growth is progress and questioning it is negativity. That is another leak. Then we go local. County commissions, city councils, school boards. This is where the metaphor becomes painfully tangible. Zoning decisions get pushed through with minimal transparency. Large projects are approved before infrastructure plans are fully formed. Landfills multiply in rural areas without long-term traffic or environmental mitigation properly debated in the open. Citizens show up to meetings. They raise concerns. Instead of collaborative problem solving, they get procedural deflection. Trust the process. We followed protocol. Now is not the time. Water. Rising, the genius of a constitutional republic, is not that it eliminates disagreement. It is that it channels disagreement into structured accountability. Federal authority is limited and enumerated. States retain broad powers. Local governments exist to serve the immediate needs of their communities. The system works when each layer respects its lane and answers directly to the people. It fails when every layer prioritizes self-preservation over course correction. Going right is not about party loyalty. It is about direction. It means asking a simple question at every level of government. Is this action expanding freedom or consolidating power? Is this policy strengthening local accountability or outsourcing responsibility upward? Is this debate producing solutions or just slogans? From Washington to Raleigh to Alamance County, the pattern is the same. When citizens who notice problems are shamed instead of heard, institutions drift. When fiscal restraint is mocked, debt grows. When transparency is optional, trust erodes. When responsibility is always someone else's job, nobody grabs the bucket. And history has no patience for societies that confuse discussion with action. Ships do not sink because someone pointed at the hole. They sink because no one patched it. Empires do not fall because citizens complain. They fall because leadership ignored structural weakness while managing appearances. The question is not whether America faces challenges. Every nation does. The question is whether we still believe self-government requires self-responsibility. Federal representatives answer to voters. State legislators represent districts. County commissioners answer to neighbors. If they do not, that is not a flaw in the Constitution. That is a failure of civic engagement. A constitutional republic survives when citizens refuse to be passive passengers. It survives when we show up, ask hard questions, demand fiscal sanity, protect individual rights, and insist that policy be measured against liberty rather than convenience. The tide does not pause for our arguments, so the choice is simple. Argue about the leak or fix it. This is Go Right with Peter Boykin, the Constitutionalist for Liberty.